Sorry about that. I forgot to unmute the computer. So we are streaming live on Facebook and on Zoom. Welcome to the History Center if you haven't been. If you're watching at home, please type any questions for our speaker in the chat or comments. This program is also being recorded and available on the York County History Center YouTube channel. Just a couple announcements before we get started. You can find out more information about our programs on yorkhistorycenter.org. Our South Central Pennsylvania Genealogy Society speaker is Tom Gibson. He'll be speaking on April 2nd about the Continental Congress at the Colonial Courthouse. Our second Saturday speaker is Ruth Ann Robinson, who will be speaking about the Welsh slate industry in York on April 9th. And our Civil War Roundtable speaker is Scott Mingus. He'll be presenting on the Lincoln funeral train on April 20th. So now I'd like to introduce Bob Zimmerman, who will speak to you about his experiences in the Army and at the Pentagon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you, Linda. Where's Linda? Thank you for inviting me. My wife is here, Lorraine. She'll be talking for a little bit. My daughter's in the back, Roberta, and her two kids. My brother is here, Jim. His wife, my nephew, Drew is here, and my sister Judy is here. She turned up first. Thanks for coming. We're going to talk a little bit about my time in the military. I have a little different spin than most people. After basic training, I never touched a gun. I never shot. I never was shot at. Really, my time in the Army was pretty much like a vacation. It was it was a lot different than what people say up here a lot of times. And it changed my life for the good. The Army was the best. I say I hated every minute. I'm not going to say that, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me in the long run. So I grew up in York. A little bit about myself. I grew up in York, out in West York, Drexel Street. My father was a jeweler. He worked at Bears. He worked at where at Jim Fry's.
Sebring, Devers, Fleurs, Bears, Bentley, Fry, Max Reed's, Shelley's.
And then he opened up his own jewelry store, Zimmerman Jewelers, out in West York, and Jim runs that now. My brother runs Zimmerman Jewelers. My father was in Germany during World War II, saw action. His brother, Dick Zimmerman, was a radar man on the B-17. His airplane went down one night. It was a mechanical error. The engine caught on fire. They bailed out in the Sea of Japan, I think, somewhere over there. And the next day they were picked up by a ship that had seen the plane come down. This is during the war. And I think there was 12 on the airplane. I think 5 died, something like that. But my uncle, he survived, Dick Zimmerman. He had Modern Air Motel out in East York, Modern Air Motel. But he told the story, a friend of his was on the plane with him that passed away, died that night. And he was buried up in Carlisle, I think. And for years, he would go up once a month to see his grave. He remembers that. My father's other brother, Jim Zimmerman, he was in the Merchant Marine. And so all 3 brothers were in the service during World War II. I went to West York. My wife went to West York. We were high school sweethearts. Graduated in 1970. Our slogan is the class of 70 is now turning 70. I ran track. I ran cross country. I was in the color guard in West York. And I always like to throw this out here. I still hold a track record at West York. 3,200 4-man relay. We still hold that record. We still hold that. It's been 52 years now. I went to West York, and then when I graduated, I was working at J.D. Leonard Moving and Storage right down here on George Street, North George Street. And never had any desire to go to college, and never had a desire to really learn anything. I never worked with Dad fixing watches or anything. I was working in the J.D. Leonard down here. And then the draft, they had the lottery system. Do you guys remember the lottery? And they picked your number. And I can remember today, my number was 92. I can still see the day that we were watching them pick numbers. And they said if anything like under 150, your chances of going in the Army are pretty good. The lottery system. So I came home that night. She was crying. She was crying. And at that point, I decided to just enlist because I didn't want to wait around. I thought, let's just get it over. So I enlisted, and I enlisted right down here on Market Street was the recruitment center. And we went up to New Cumberland to take our physicals, I remember. But I remember at the recruitment center, they gave us a test, a colorblind test. And everybody see them, it's a circle with a number in there. And I couldn't pass that. I mean, I can see colors, but I couldn't pass that colorblind test. But I told the recruiter, I want to be a helicopter pilot. He goes, well, you're colorblind. How can you be a pilot? And I said, well, what's that matter? He goes, well, if we tell you to land in that green field, it's pretty nice if you know what color green it is. So that didn't work out. So I enlisted. Jim, do you remember me enlisting? Dad was up mad, right? Because Vietnam War was still going on. Oh yeah, I want to back up. I did have a cousin, Uncle Dick, the guy in the airplane. His son was in Vietnam, Richard Zimmerman, Dick Zimmerman. He went to York High. He was in Vietnam. He was my cousin. He was injured in the face. He got shot in the face. And he lived, and he died, what, about 48 years old, something like that. So I wanted to mention my cousin Dick. So I enlisted in December of 1971. And I took basic training, went down to basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. And if you've ever been to basic training, I said, if I would have known what I was in for, I would have deserved it. I mean, it is brutal. Kicking your bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, running, the drill sergeant's yelling at you. I mean, it's brutal. Anybody's been in it, right? It's brutal. Basic training is something else. I came home a couple weekends. Do you remember me coming home? I'm still dating Mrs. Zimmerman over here. Come home to see her. I was 20. She's 19. She was 19. Let me pass picture around here. Tell me if that looks like a dangerous soldier to you. Huh? That's me. Couple things about basic training I remember. One thing I remember, we threw hand grenades in basic training. And you ever see war movies where the enemy's coming and they're throwing grenades? If you could throw a grenade past that door, how about you're doing what? They're heavy. Well, you know, they're heavy. I'll never forget, we're throwing grenades and I played baseball and stuff. And I'm thinking, man, the enemy's got to be darn close for you to throw a grenade at them. Yeah. Anything else about basic training? I was in basic training for, I think, about 2 months. And then they gave you tests. And they called it the advanced individual AIT test. And they put you through certain tests to see what you're going to be doing in the Army. And one thing I learned in high school that helped me through my whole life was how to type. I could type. So I went in AIT, I stayed at Fort Dix, and I was assigned a clerk typist. And that was my my MOS, was a clerk typist. It's called administrative specialist is what I was, clerk typist. So I was there for two. So this is now in May of 72. And I remember all of us were done AIT training, we're done the training, we're all in a big room like this, about 50 of us, and we were getting our orders from where we were going to go, be stationed. Excuse me, I'll never forget. We're standing here, and the guy's on the stage, and he goes, "Bob Gladfelder." You know, Bob's, "Yeah." "You're going to Germany." You know, Bob, "Yay!" You know, "Jim Zimmerman, you're going to Hawaii." You know, "Joe, you're going to Vietnam." Although I don't think many of them got to go. When I was going in, it was kind of toward the end of Vietnam. I don't think they got there. But I'll never forget Bob Zimmerman. I said, "Yeah, Korea." And I'm thinking to myself, where is Korea? I knew it was Vietnam, but you know, seriously, I had to go look on the map and think, where's Korea? So I had like a couple weeks off, right? And we got married. Right before I left for Korea. So Mrs. Zimmerman, Miss Wire became Mrs. Zimmerman. So this is May now of 72. I land in Korea. I thought I landed on another plane. This gentleman back here has been in Korea, but I was there in 72, and it was bad. I mean, people in cardboard boxes sleeping. They urinate and everything on the street. It was something to see. My job was, I was stationed at Yongsan Air Force Base, or I'm sorry, Yongsan in Seoul, Korea. It was main headquarters. And what my job was, I had a top secret clearance. I would go down to the motor pool every morning, pick up the Jeep, go up to the mail room. We had a mail room. I would get the mail. I would sort it to the different generals, and I would drive down to headquarters. I would deliver the mail to each room, and then go back and do it again. I would do that twice a day. So you see what I'm saying? My military service was different than what we normally hear. And somebody told me one day for all the guys in the front line, there's a ton of guys on the back line doing what I'm doing. You know, there's a ton of guys that never see action, that are behind the scenes doing what needs to be done. So I was there for 3 months, and Mrs. Zimmerman came to join me. She came over, and we lived right off the base. We lived right off the base. We had an apartment upstairs. I have pictures in it, pass around and show everybody. It was a 2-room apartment. The guy that owned the apartment, he was an American, and he had a Korean girlfriend downstairs. He would come and see her once in a while. We would travel. We traveled up to Panmunjom. That's where the border is, and they have a table, the North Korean flag and the South Korean flag, and it splits the table. We were there. We traveled down south. We took a train ride, and we were down at the furthest end of South Korea. We saw Bob Hope. one year. He was there. I think that was as close as last year. We saw my food. We spent a lot of time with the USO. We got to know other couples that were there, and we spent time with them. And I had the cleanest Jeep in the whole Army. We'd go down and wash the Jeep on weekends. We'd take the bus down and wash my Jeep on weekends. Lorraine, she volunteered. I'm going to ask her to come up and tell her story. She volunteered on the Army base. The people in Korea were very nice. They were so nice. We'd get on a bus and they'd come here, Lorraine. We'd get on a bus and they would literally come up to Lorraine because they never saw blonde hair. They can go like this. And tell them what you did.
Well, first of all, when he wanted me to come over, he had to get approval from his commanding officers and everything. And we went through all that he could afford to keep me there and that I wouldn't be a burden to the South Korean government. So we had to go through all that paperwork. And I think it cost me like $500 to get the plane tickets to go over, which I thought was a lot, but I guess not, because it could have been thousands of dollars. So I leave from Baltimore, go to Chicago, go to San Francisco, and then I meet some Air Force guy, and he's going back from leave, and he's going to Korea. And I was supposed to stay overnight in Japan, and he says, if you want to go with me, I'll get you right to the base you need to go to. I know where to take you. And I said, oh, I don't know what to do. This was my first time to ever, first of all, leave home, let alone fly halfway around the world. So I thought, well, I'll go with him. He knows where he's going. He took me right to the community base there, and he was down getting last minute things ready for the next day I was supposed to show up. Well, I was there early. So then he took off like a week, and showed me around town and everything. And then he goes back to work, and I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do now? So I went around in the base, and there was an Army community service, and they help you out. Like if the military guys have to go home for like emergency leave, like a death in the family or something, they would sign out pots and pans and sheets and towels if they were bringing their family over. So they had things like that. But we met so many nice people. And I mean, it was an experience. Even though it was a third world country, it was an experience. And that's probably where we got our love for traveling, because we just go weekends and do things. So I do have an outfit. Linda, do you want to put it on?
Linda, come on up. It won't fit the original owner.
This is the slip.
Come over here, Lorraine. Come over here. We called home. I talked to my parents one time in a year. One time. It was $5 a minute to call. And back then, $5 was illegal. So I called home at Christmas one time. I don't know if Jim, you remember? Yeah, we used to write letters, but you know, today it's funny with FaceTime and all that stuff. Talked to my parents once in a year. Once in a year. And this is what Lorraine brought back from Korea. A couple side notes, you know, we used to walk through the market to get to the base, and you'd see cats strung up. They ate cats like chicken. And they told you never eat off base. Don't eat at any of the restaurants because the cockroaches were unbelievable. Yes, unbelievable. Oh, don't you look beautiful?
Yeah. And then you had little booties. These are dry rotted. These are your shoes.
But they were very nice, and you know, I was a mailman, delivered the mail to the generals, and what have you, right there in Seoul, in the headquarters. We were supposed to go out and bivouac one time. We were supposed to go out. It was too cold. It got canceled. So that's why. That's it. So that was 13 months I was in Korea. And then my next assignment was Pentagon. I got stationed at the Pentagon. And on the way back, on the way back, we stopped in Japan. Get that picture. We stopped in Japan. We spent a week in Japan traveling. We on the elevator.
Where in Japan?
Tokyo. And we saw Diana Ross. We got on the elevator with Diana Ross. She was doing a concert there.
It's the other problem.
It's in the book. And then we stopped, and like I say, my story is, it's like a vacation. We stopped in Hawaii. Her cousin's husband was stationed in the Navy in Hawaii. We stopped at Fort DeRussi. Is that the name of the fort?
Yes.
In Hawaii? There's actually a fort right on Waikiki Beach called Fort DeRussi for Army people and for military people. I think it was $8 a night or something like that. And her cousin was stationed there, and we spent a week there in Hawaii on the way back. They drove us all the way around. So we come back to the United States. I'm now stationed at the Pentagon. I'm stationed at Fort Myers, Virginia. She is staying here in New York. She's working at Graphic Services. I came home every weekend. I came home. I would leave as soon as work was over Friday. I'd come home, and then I'd leave Monday morning. I'd drive down Monday morning, and I'd stay down there all week. The Pentagon, there was no saluting. There was no saluting to Pentagon because your arm would fall off. What I did down there, this is a funny story. When I was in Korea and my buddies found out I was going to the Pentagon, that's where they assigned you your next assignment. So all these guys gave me their names and where they wanted to be assigned next. Like Bob Gladfelder, he wanted New Cumberland, he wanted to get. And I had this list of people and where they wanted to come. So I'm at the Pentagon, like a month or a couple of weeks, and I find out where this office is, where they assign people. So I go up and I go in, knock on the door, and the lady says, "Come in." And I said, she goes, "What do you want?" I said, "I just got back from Korea, and I have a list of friends that they would like to be assigned. Get out of here." Get out of here. She threw me out. She goes, "Get out of here." So that was the end of that. I work for the United States Army Management Systems Support Agency, USAMSA. And Jim was there. You came to visit. And here's what I did. Here's what I did for a year and a half at the Pentagon. I ran an IBM Select Typewriter.
Oh, wow.
And what this did, it was a ball, but you would put a tape in here. I could type a letter, save it. And then if somebody wanted to change the date or do anything, all I had to do was pull that letter up, change the date, and it would type by itself. I think I spent half my time doing people's resumes, getting out of the Army, and that's what I did for a long time. The USAMSA was, they had a huge, there's a picture over here somewhere. They had a huge IBM 360 computer. I mean, the thing was as big as this room, with tapes running and all that stuff. And that's what we did. We ran this IBM 360. And at the time, this was like state of the art. This was unbelievable. And That's what Sampson did. Jim was there. Jim, my brother, came down to visit one time. We had an open house. I lived at Fort Myer. I took the bus down to the Pentagon every morning, like going to work. When I was done, I came home. And this is the people at the Pentagon were very nice. They were very nice, don't get me wrong, but I'm taking a bus down to the Pentagon in the morning, and I'm sleeping in a dorm with 4 other guys in a bunk bed, you know. And I'm driving by the officers, and they have these beautiful homes, these gorgeous homes, and I'm thinking, there's such a disparity between the privates and the officers. The officers had their officers club, and they had their own golf course, and they had these beautiful homes. And here I am sleeping, you know, with 4 other guys in bunk beds almost, you know. There's a huge difference. At least there was back then. I don't know what it's like now. And that's where the Army changed my life, because I'm working at the Pentagon, and don't get me wrong, these people are wonderful. And I'm thinking, well, these people are dumber than I am. They can't even type. And I started going to night school. I went to Northern Virginia Community College, and I started taking classes. And I'd come home on weekends. Anything add about the Pentagon? I could walk anywhere I wanted to in the Pentagon. A couple of times I walked in the main, you know, the main central command center of the Pentagon. And back then, this is in the 70s, you know, big screens there, tables. I could walk around anywhere. It was pretty unbelievable. Yeah, pretty nice. The people were very nice to me. I worked with all civilians almost, really. I was a Soldier of the Month one year, or 1 month. I was Soldier of the Month one time. I was the only one who applied for it. I have a picture. They're Soldier of the Month. Pentagon right there. So I was at this point, I was Spec 5, and they call it a Specialist 5, which today is an E5, right, Bob? They don't have specialist anymore, I don't think. I got out. I don't know what else to add about the Pentagon. Any questions about the Pentagon or anything? Or
what year did you get out? What month and year did
What's
you
that?
get out?
What?
Month and year did you get out?
I got out in December of '74. And this is where I didn't, you know, I feel bad. I didn't really do anything in the Army. It's like a vacation. It changed my life, and this is the point of the whole program, really. It changed my life for the good. I'm working with these people, and I'm thinking, well, they can do it, I can do it. I started going to night school. I got out. I went to York College. And at this point, she's working. I went to York College full time. And my goal at York College was to get that piece of paper. No fraternities, no cross country, no track, no extracurricular activities, nothing. Was to get that. I was at the age of my life where I knew that piece of paper was important. And I wanted to get it. I went all right through summer. I went through, took night classes, and I got my degree in 2.5 years. I got a 4-year degree in 2.5 years. And I never even went to graduation. You know, I just wanted that piece of paper so I could have it on my resume. I knew how important that diploma was. And you know, the other BS didn't matter much. And that's where the Army changed my life. For the better. There's no doubt about it. And I would not have gone in if I didn't have to. And I look at all these kids today with nothing to do. They're kind of lost, kind of the way I was a little bit, didn't know what they were doing. I still don't know what I want to do with my life, but they have, and it forced me to go in. I never saw any action. It was the best thing in around. I went on the GI Bill at York College. I went on the GI Bill. And it turned out to be a good thing. And I just look at all these kids today with nothing to do and no direction. And I just think maybe we need to bring something back to make them go in, to force them to go in a little bit. Does that make sense? I think it would do the country a lot of good, I think. I got a 4-year degree in 2.5 years. I graduated in August 1977. Like I said, the goal was to get that piece of paper, and I graduated magna cum laude. You know what that is? That is a greater than a 3.6. Anything to add about that? Yes, sir.
Were you you signed up as a recruiter? That was in the old York post office, correct?
No, it was down here on Market Street.
Or then they moved to the post office?
Yeah, I know it was on Market Street.
I listed at the post office.
Yeah, about this first block of Market Street.
100 block. 100 block.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was on West Market Street. As you're coming east, it was on left-hand side.
So after the Army, I'll just tell you quick what I did. I went to work for Rob Supply. They were out in West York. They were plumbing and heating, industrial, electrical, and appliance distributor. I worked in the appliance department. I worked there maybe a year. And a job came up in Winchester, Virginia, as an outside salesman. And we moved to Virginia, Winchester, Virginia. She was pregnant with that one right back there. That was 79. We moved to Winchester. We lived down there for 10 years. I was an outside sales rep for electrical stuff like the switches and receptacles and lights and things like that. We had both of our daughters born down there. Roberta was born down there. Kendra was born. I have 6 grandchildren right now, right? I came back to York in '89 and went to work for Yesco, York Electrical Supply. They're right on the top of George Street. And they were. I was an outside sales rep. I called on Harley Davidson, York International. I called on a lot of good accounts. And then and throughout my job history, I've changed jobs every 10 years. And I just get bored. It's just time to change. Every 10 years, I change jobs. Not because the company forced me to. I just took this time to do something different. I worked for T&B, and in my last job, I worked for Joseph E. Biden, who was a sales rep, and I called mostly down in Baltimore. So that's my Army story. I don't know, Fort Dix, Korea, 13 months, Pentagon, a year and a half. Like a vacation, it changed my life for the good, there's no doubt about it. I had a lot of good friends in the Army. And we made a lot of good friends in Korea. And it's not the story you hear a lot of times. I saw no action. I saw no one, a good thing. Any questions? Yes, sir.
When you went to your college, did you go where they are now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They originally were on college in Duke Street.
Yeah.
Before
No.
you moved out.
It's where it was now. And they had just started 4-year degrees not too long before I started. It used to be just associates, but right before I started, they started bachelor degrees. And I got a bachelor's degree in business management.
When you came back from Korea, did they discourage you from wearing your uniform when you travel and off base?
Never heard that. Never heard that. No. Did you?
You weren't there long enough, you come home on weekends.
In California, they warned us not to wear uniforms off the base.
That's pathetic.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's sad. So thank you all for coming. It's, it's a little different than you normally hear, I think, but it is what it is. And so, thank you. Thank you very much.